Today we have with us Danny from Banana Stables. How's it going?
Hey Mike, how's it going? It's not going too bad.
So, originally I reached out because you were posting things about kind of your goals for your stable and
Yes.
how you've had very clear goals, acquire this type of horse, this type of horse, this type of horse, and then what you're transitioning to next. And I know for myself that was my original plan. And then I feel like every single week or breeding cycle, I throw the plan out the window and I have a brand new plan. So it's kind of nice to see somebody who's organized and kind of going along from, a logical progression on where they're trying to go.
Yeah, so I decided to set this goal up about probably closer to the beginning of December, and I made an investment from fiat to ETH to start to reach this goal. And
Okay.
at this point, now I'm just gonna grind it out through an ETH
Mm,
standpoint and breeding and then selling and stuff like that. But yeah, so three Genesis Buttes is what we have in the stable, and then one UU Z6 Finny,
mm.
um, one legendary Zabo, and then for this maiden, we we purchased a legendary Nock Z4.
Wow.
The next step is the Genesis Zabo, preferably a Z3, just based off what I've seen from some breeding standpoints. But that's going to take a little bit of time to get there. But that is kind of my goal. But I'm also a lot like you. When they announced the maiden, the breeding just breeding just kind of threw what we had set up
Yeah.
out the window. But that's not going too bad. So hopefully we can make some of that coin back and get it growing from there again to get back on that path.
So since we're on the maiden, how many horses are you going to qualify?
I'm gonna be finishing up running and everything today. It's gonna be somewhere between 5 to 7 is what it's looking like.
Wow. How many did you have entered?
So I Unity Breeding and Racing, also Wally Wally with Mouthface on Discord.
Mm,
He's a friend, and we combined. We did a lot of combination. So separately, just from my stable, I had about 8 to 10. From his stable, we had about 5 to 7. So a total of close to about 15 to 17 is what we started with. Of course, we ended up with some donks, but that always happens.
yeah.
So somewhere between 15 and 17, and we're going to get in. I want to say at least probably half to
Wow.
the quarterfinals.
That's that's impressive. I was pretty confident that I was gonna, of course, I spent a lot on breeding this time for the maiden, expecting to get almost everything in, and then it looked like I was gonna have four in, and then I woke up one morning and the cut line for sprints and marathons jumped like point
It's
one
nuts. Yeah, it's
in like
nuts.
6 hours. I'm like, how is that even possible? And
Yeah, it's going
so
to be
yeah,
a
I'm
lot
gonna
of
have
cutting
one.
and watching. You got one in.
Yeah, I have one, and
Anything that you can race in though. Anything that you can like fight to get in.
I've been trying, and it's just I was expecting the fields to get weaker. Everybody trying to run up, but I don't know if the window's still too far out that no one's trying to qualify donkeys just to see if they can. I have a couple that are sitting at like 0.35, 0.36 that were supposed to be marathoners, and that I'm trying to transition now into mids because it's so much easier to qualify for mid.
It is. It
Um,
is.
I think next time I'll probably only try to qualify mid horses if it keeps looking like this.
We have we have two that are most likely going to be top 50. Now, if they finish top
Nice.
50 after the cut line for mids, but
Yeah.
it seems like, I mean, we nailed it from the start with their mid distance as far as from their Griffin and straight out, so they haven't been tested at anything else.
Mm.
So Flip for 20s one, he's sitting 34th right now. Um, and then the other is 123. He'll be getting his last four races actually to get to his 25 after we get off here. 123 is actually a very interesting horse. Just to kind of talk about that, that is one of Wally's horses that we went together on this one, but he has one first through this whole. I'm gonna pull him up just to make sure I'm giving the correct stats. He has one first through this whole qualifying, and then from there out, 11 seconds and 3/3,
Wow.
and then 3/4, 2/6, and 1/9. And he's ran one race at 16, pulled a second, He's ran one race at 2K, pulled a fourth, and everything else has been 1800. So he has 10 seconds in 1800. So
Is he flaming a lot too, or?
So he stopped flaming once he hit C3.
Okay.
I don't believe he has flamed. Yeah, he hasn't flamed once in C3, but has. I don't believe he's finished lower than. Did he pull a fourth in C3? Okay, so he has 3 seconds, 1/6, and 1/9 in C3. But I'm still okay with that. Because 3 seconds with no flames is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Now, if you do qualify him really high, are you going to keep him up there in the top 50, or will you drop him real quick to get him in better placement?
I'm going to draw. Flip for 20 is definitely going to be dropping. I'm going to drop him down to at least a class 4 race.
Nice.
Which is something that I feel like Zed should probably change. There's no prize for finishing high up, right? I have this round's on me. I could every single fib with the way the current class system's set up. I can race this round's on me down to 0. Run it down to 0 in sprints. Run it back up to class 3 in during the Fib Cup and marathons. And then I tank her. I drop her down as low as I can. She'll sit once I get to 25 in, she'll sit top 20, top 10 really for up until the last day, and then I just drop her. I run her in about 10 sprints to drop her down 10 to 20 class points and let her sit there and have her have a better placement in the race.
That's how my one super donkey Genesis Butte is. She's terrible in paid races, but in freeze, man, I'd place top 10 every single fib with her and then tank her. The one time I tanked her a little bit too much and she missed the cut because I didn't get up to my alarm and missed the last hour to try to bring her back where I needed her to. But she's been top 10 qualifier every single Fibonacci.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why they may be taking a little bit, because it seems like they're taking a little bit of a break here from tournaments after this Maiden.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with because my fiance is tired of me sitting here.
400 races in the tournament and then 400 races to bring everything back down.
Exactly.
So when did you get started in Zed Run then?
So Templar was a horse that I got, and he entered Novus Earth June 10th, 2021 at 9:03 p.m.
Okay.
So that was the last. So it was June 10th was when I got it. It was also the last Genesis drop. I was one of the lucky ones that got an early window, and was able to get one.
Nice. Yeah, so you probably got in. I got in shortly after that because I was waiting for the drop. I didn't want to spend any money until after the drops were done. My wave on the Terra drop, that was slightly challenging, and I didn't get anything there. And then the or was it the Echo drop was the second one, I believe. My wave got canceled. And then I thought I won $1 million horse. Didn't win $1 million horse. And then at that point, I was like, I'm just done waiting for Zed. I need to buy a horse immediately.
Yeah.
So that's when I went out and bought my first horse.
Still waiting for mine for all 5 of my stables.
Yeah.
That is. So what got me into it originally, just kind of give a little backstory on that, is I had a bunch of Dapper cash from Top Shot. I feel like Top Shot is a way a lot of people ended up entering the Zed world, and I'm just another one. I entered right before the peak in February, made some decent money doing that, and then just transitioned over, man. I just love the idea of the game, of the breeding strategies and all of that when it comes to Zed, and I load the game up almost every day again, to where when we went through a really bad down stretch when the market was down bad and everything was just down and nothing made sense in the game, was really when I wasn't turning the game on. I was doing other things, and I'm back to being on the game every day.
Yeah. Now, when you first got started, did you have a clear direction on what you were going to try to do, or were you kind of making it up as you go, as you learned?
Oh, I had no idea. I just wanted a horse that I could run.
Yeah.
Templar is a complete donkey. He has I'll just drill down his paid races.
Do you still own him?
Yep, still own him. He has 137 paid races.
Wow.
His profit is negative 0.1239.
Oof.
So I didn't
I have a
care.
couple of those.
I didn't. He's about as A shaped as it gets. To kind of give to give you an idea of what it looks like. I did not care, man. I enjoyed running this horse to no end as far as what it was. It has no paid wins. His only wins are he's like a 1% win percentage, and it's free. So
Gotcha.
I don't run him anymore unless it's in A shaped or pity point.
That's funny because my first horse is pretty similar. She's never placed first, and she only has one finish below ninth. 100% paid, I think, except for the last race that I ran her in. And she was profitable up until like 35 races because she second and third so much. And then from there to 50, she just lost money.
So the very first pony plug tournament they did, Templar was cashed in it.
Nice.
From a standpoint of and they were so confused. They were like, "This horse has no wins." I'm like, "But he pulled a ton of second and thirds."
Yep. So when did you start feeling like you had a grasp on the game and you were going to start making more intentional moves?
I would say that really became for me, just looking back at the calendar here, probably around September, October. I decided I really wanted to get involved. I knew that I wanted to keep growing and playing the game and becoming more and more into it, I would say. As I just learned, I just couldn't find a racer. And then finally I acquired a horse named Inferno, and it was actually a decent racer, so it made the game fun. I was able to win some. I wasn't losing as much as I was with Templar, obviously.
Yeah.
But that was when I really got serious about it, and I started growing. I started looking into more breeding methods and how to do this and how to do that, and just kind of start moving from there. And I became friends with a few of the guys in the Pony Plug Discord, Doughboy, Stanley, those guys, and they really just sort of kind of put me on the right path, along with becoming friends with Wally and stuff like that. It's just grown organically. I would say maybe September, October was when I decided I really wanted to. When I really started to think about making the moves that I made, that had you reach out and inquire about making those moves to want to grow the stable and set specific goals.
Now, how did you decide on the goal specifically? Did it just seem like a logical progression, or was there a clear path of what checking off each box would bring to the stable, or how did you kind of come up with those?
What each potential move would mean for the stable. So if you throw it, speaking from a game standpoint, if you throw a Butte stallion in the stud barn, very rarely will it get studded out. You throw anything Butte in the stud barn, for that matter, very rarely will it get studded out. Unless you're setting up a breeding deal with someone, or you found the honey pot with a horse and you've nailed 2 or 3 and you want to go back and try again. Finnies, obviously. Z7s, I don't feel like are anywhere. I feel like Z7s are valuable. Z5s are the most valuable. I personally feel like Z6s are undervalued. Which is
I did see that post.
Which is part of the reason why I have a Z6 Finny UU. I feel like they're undervalued, but Finnies get bred with a lot more, in my opinion, than anything besides Genesis Knox.
Yep.
So that's where that came from. And then Sabos, the more I look into, the further down Sabo blood goes, I feel like you have better racers. You can a Sabo with a Finny or a Sabo with a Knock. I feel like that horse is 1,000 times better to be a better racing horse than a Zabo. And I think Genesis Zabos just are a good spot for me to finish, because I personally feel that a Genesis Knock is probably way out of my price range anytime soon. And I just value Genesis horses in general.
Yeah.
But having that legendary knock, that was a big goal for me because I want to be able to produce Z5s or Z6s exclusives and be able to turn some type of profit from breeding. Because if you can't stay profitable in this game, if you can't make money, really you're just going to keep putting your fiat into it, and eventually you're going to get frustrated. So it's really just a matter of trying to stay profitable and trying to grow.
Yeah.
So with the way the market is now, it's still not, unless I'm setting up a deal with someone, it's still not going to be super profitable. I'll probably end up racing most of my Z5s for the next couple months, just testing breeding theories with the horse and everything like that, and seeing how it produces. And then moving from there, maybe moving into another legendary horse or something. I actually really want it, but they just kind of got priced out for me, and I was impatient with the Maiden coming up. I really wanted the Z2 Colt UU, but they were about, that would have cost me about another 0.2. Yeah. And it just wasn't in the cards at this time. And like I said, I got impatient with the Maiden coming. And that horse will make it, actually. The Z4 is one of the horses that it's sitting right at the AB line. I could race it up to get in to keep it in A, but I feel like the competition's going to be a little bit easier in B. So I'm probably just going to let it fall.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes me happy because I just bought 2 legendary Zabos. So
yes,
I'm happy that you're liking the Zabos because I am too.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Zabo of breeders, 100%. And I just think Zabo bloodlines for breeding and legendary. I think a legendary anything bred with a Zabo is a good breed. Charcoal Sky is a horse that I have in the Maiden right now that's going to make the cut. It is a Zabo Butte mix. Working out great for us.
Yeah, my second horse that might make the cut, he's kind of on the fence right now, is a Knock Butte Legendary bred with a Zabo Genesis. So
probably a decent
Z15.
Horse.
Yeah. And he's paying the buzz what he is. Definitely. So so the next goal is the Genesis Zabo.
Correct.
Now, you've already brought up too, like the importance of being able to make a profit, whether it's from breeding to sell, selling, or racing. I think understanding keeping your stable cash flow positive so you can continue to play the game without having to inject more fiat is probably one of the most underestimated skills in the game by far right now.
Absolutely, it's very hard to do.
How do you think about building a stable and growing it while still being able to kind of to play and dabble? Like, do you have a threshold of you have to sell this many horses every month? Once you pull a profit racing, do you slow down so that way you don't hit a downtrend? Or
so right now, for me, it's I banked a lot on the Maiden to being able to cash and get a few horses into the semis and hopefully 1 or 2 into the finals. Just trying to squeeze, and I know that's going to be hard to do. That probably is an unrealistic goal. But that was sort of where I was because I wanted to go all out for this. I wanted to see how we were going to do with the breeding theories and the tools that we use, because we do use Zed.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, we do use Zed. We don't use the BT, but it's working out well combining kind of what we know and using that. That's almost like a let me check my homework type thing.
Yeah.
I don't specifically use that. I have my own theories that I look at too. A lot of people don't like to look at offsprings. From what I've seen through Twitter, through talking to people in the space, it seems like a lot of people don't like to look at offsprings. That's really the only thing I used to look at before I used the Zed tool. It's the first thing I look at when I use the Zed tool is what are these offsprings base abilities, and how good of a horse is this horse going to be able to continue to grow into or build into. I look at the offspring chart on Know Your Horse is probably my biggest tool when it comes to breeding, outside of Zed at this point. But a lot of it's just racing profitability. I'm excited for the Elo change. I'm hoping it makes a lot more horses maybe not necessarily profitable, but just raceable. So
Yeah.
where if you race them smartly and you use them in a good sense, that you can make them profitable, because this is supposed to be a game of skill. So obviously skill comes down to selecting the right races, finding your preferred distances and all that stuff. But if you take the time and you spend the time to do that, it should happen no matter what. You should be able to make it profitable.
Yeah, I definitely miss the days back when you could only race, you could put a horse in a race 3 at a time, and it would sit for 12 hours because then I could kind of wait for all the monsters to get stuck in races and then start picking off everybody else with my $2 grinders.
Not only that too, I like that. I miss those days personally, just because I could put all my horses in a race, walk away, and come back 12 hours later.
Yeah, now it's like 45 seconds. Crap, I gotta go.
Right,
Yeah,
one hundred
it's really
percent.
fast. It's really fast paced right now, especially with
Um,
tournaments. There's not much gap in between races.
and the times have to change. Um, the times have to change from a standpoint of them acknowledging Pony Run, which is going to be let's call it what it is. It's a gambling platform. Um, and then you also have Zed Draft, which is another platform.
Mm,
Um, but and them themselves want to get into the gambling aspect of this game. I don't know how long this is down the road for them, whether this is 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But if they want to get in that, you can't have a 5 minute race window.
yeah,
That it has to be different, right? Like you look at real life, horse racing. You have your morning lines, you have your papers that come out the night before, so people can study these horses, right?
yeah,
Like that's why like the biggest thing is like the good thing is when Pony Plug does these stable duels, and it sounds like they're going to start being on the Zed Draft site a little bit more. Um, excuse me. Um, if they can get those lineups out beforehand, that's something I would be able to bet on all the time, because I can go and I can do my research. I can see if there's any head-to-head matches, and I can do that stuff to be able to wager on the stable duels. Anybody can do that, and you can make a knowledgeable choice to try to win some money.
I think too to open up the ability for more race calling. Uh, having that being able to go in and research the horses and build some sort of lineup and talking points between races. But when you have 40 some races going 5 minutes apart from each, it doesn't give you much time for setup unless you spend hours and hours and hours as
Or you
soon
do
as
it on a
they're
tape delay, which what's the fun in that?
right.
The digital derby was great when they did that. Sean versus
Yeah,
all and them that was awesome when they did that, and that was obviously on a tape delay. But it was done really well, and I agree. The race calling is a big deal as well. You have to acknowledge your community, which they do to a very which they're starting to do a lot better.
yeah,
But race calling is obviously something that we all like, and the gambling aspect of it is something most of us like too. I mean, if you're in crypto or NFTs, most likely you're a DGen.
yeah,
So of some sort. Let me not
yeah.
categorize everybody under one statement, but yeah, most likely you're a DJ of some sort.
Yeah, and I'm most excited I think about for custom races, just because the ability for the community to become creative and build the matchups that they always wanted to see and to play the game their own way really becomes possible.
I agree. I agree. That is something that I'm excited for too, and I hope they release that sooner than later, because that also allows these smaller platforms that are trying to grow within the Zed community to grow, like Pony Run and Zed
Yeah,
Draft, because you can set up your 12 races. Hey, this is happening in 24 hours. These are your 12 horses that are in this race.
yeah, it'll definitely be exciting. So, did you want to go over some of your organizational tools? Because I do everything on pen and paper right now in a flip book, and it
Okay.
is obnoxious.
Yeah, so we can go over this. So I can't take credit for any of this, actually. Um, this thing that I'm about to pull up here, um, this is something that Joe at Zombie Racing put out for the community. Um, I can actually send it to you
Okay.
because it's just kind of it's public out there for everybody to use. But it gives you that. It tells you this. As you can see right now, my realized ROI is about negative 61%. This is off for me for some reason down here.
Okay.
But it gives you a nice thorough layout of everything that you have in your stable.
Now, do you import all these things manually then? And then it organizes it for you?
So you just type in your stable right here. You type in your horses. I have mine pretty thoroughly organized. As you can see, all my Genesis,
Yeah.
my legendaries, exclusives, elites, crosses. And then you can even keep track of your bloodlines and how far down they go.
Oh, wow.
So I have a few horses here, like this one right here. This is, I believe, this one is. This is Breathless Sunline.
Mm.
As you can see, it has Edge Blood in it, and then I can
Yep.
come down here to Breathless Gift. This horse has Terms Blood and Breathless Edge Blood and Bo Derek Blood in it.
Nice.
So this feature right here isn't something I really use. It was back when you had like your, before they changed the reset dates to every 28 days. This kind of kept track of where you were at, how many breeds you've done, when your breed resets, and everything like that. This is a page that I just kind of have made up on my own. I have my distance preferences here, my down close preferences, and just some notes about the horses. And then I have it separated between my two barns. And it really just, for me, kind of lets me stay organized during events and tournaments. This was something I've been doing. I haven't done one in a while, but back on the 13th, I was going through after they made the announcement for the roadmap change and everything like that, and I was just going through and seeing what the floors were and just posting them on Twitter. But I haven't done one in a while, but maybe I'll do one here shortly. See how everything has changed since then.
Okay.
And then this is where I just keep track of my stud barn.
Okay.
Realistically. And I'm always offering rebates on that, because really it's a way to just kind of try to force some income in a sense to get it. But this is like my home base. This is my tool here that I use for everything.
I like it. Like I said, it's way better than pen and paper.
So what I did is I copied this page over and then just deleted all my females just to kind of make it a little bit easier. And some people, they want to go for those super coats and stuff like that, so it lets them see the color and everything a little bit easier as well.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about any of this stuff?
No, it seems pretty straightforward once you kind of look at it and then start playing with it. Yes. So I'll definitely put the link to this in the show notes.
Yeah, I will get that over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Are you traditionally an organized person?
No, I'm completely unorganized.
It just somehow Zed worked, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like there was no way that I couldn't do this. Being unorganized in something like this, just sort of like, I guess I'm organized when it comes to certain aspects of things. When it comes to making and selling, making money and losing money, right? Being unorganized in Zed is a great way to lose money.
Yes, it is.
Which is why I came up with the distance, which is why I created the distance preference page. Because it's just, for me, right? Like if I'm trying to run 5 or 6 horses at a time and I'm just gassed mentally, I can just come here and I can look at this. Okay, this is what I need for this horse, this horse, this horse, this horse. And it just lets me know too, right? Because when you get to a stable of 40 to 50 horses, you're not going to remember every horse's distance preference right off the bat.
Yeah.
Now you do have tools like Stack Knocks and everything like that, but Stack Knocks can be a little deceiving sometimes too, when it tells you what horse to enter in a race. So,
yep. I've been slowly learning how to use it as an advisor and less of a holy grail.
I'm mainly using Stack Knocks now for tournament races and what races to not put my horses in to give them the best chance in the field.
Yeah. Some of these maiden fields, like, they just look so soft, and then you enter it and it's like, oh wait, that horse was not anything I should have been going against.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. Speaking of that, speaking of the maiden fields, that Zed just has to work on eventually.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of noise too, because like there's so many horses that aren't thoroughly run. So then Stack Next doesn't have good
Enough.
detailed data because they've only been run 6 times or 10 times, and this is the first time at this distance that you really don't know what you're getting yourself into unless you do have a really strong horse.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Also, just so Joe at Zombie Racing, he has a tool to where you can't to where it tracks if you're entering a horse, even if it's from a different wallet, if it's from basically the same stable. So I don't know if that's an IP thing or not. Um, but that's something that I think Zed should really get look into, because there's ways to stack fields during these tournaments to make sure your horses get in.
Yeah.
Um, you can click slow enough. You can click fast enough to where you're not even using a bot and you're clicking through 4 or 5 wallets to get horses in.
Yeah, I know I've seen it happen.
I mean, I also won't, I won't sit here and say I don't do it, because I do.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're doing this right, like some people may think that I'm a piece of shit for this, and that's their opinion and they're entitled to it. But when you are trying to do this and you're trying to make money, you have to take advantage of everything you can. And that's one way to do it.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree with that either. Like it's unfortunate for those who don't have the capability to do it, but like you said, if there's other people who are doing it, it doesn't necessarily make it right. But if it makes a profit and allows you to continue to go, then you kind of have to decide what's more important at that time. And like that's kind of one of the things where I'm really torn with the extensions. Like I feel like the extensions when Flames came out made it too easy, not necessarily to win races, but to downclass. Like it made it very clear, how do I get my horse that can downclass from class 2 back to class 5, so that way I can just eat up, these crazy fields. Because I know there for a while, there's a lot of horses I didn't see in class 4 anymore because they didn't exactly know how to come back down properly. They didn't know how to utilize, a 1400 or an 1800 or a 2000 as like a weird off distance to downclass really well. So I feel like the class 4 and class 5 fields were really soft back then. But then once Flames came out and really showed true distance preference, and then you put the Know Your Horse or Stack Next extension on top of that, it just became
Oh,
so
yeah.
efficient to run your horses, even with the changes in points. Like everybody's racing IQ went way up, and I think that took away a lot of the fun of actually having to understand your fields.
And I think that's something that is what caused them to go tournaments so fast, because that around the time that really we switched to Flames was around the time the game really started to taper off in a bad way for them, in a bad way for
Yeah,
everybody, because I mean everybody had an investment in this. um, Flames were fun at first to see if you could figure out where your horse flamed at, but it then became oh crap.
and
I
like odds were deceiving too, because like if you had a fairly variant horse that had somewhat decent base ability, like you could be at sub 10 odds at every single distance and not realize which one you need to actually run in to stay profitable until Flames came out.
Yeah.
Unless you were somebody who had a really, really deep understanding of the game or had a really, really strong horse.
Yes, and I think they're on the right path, and everybody's still. I don't want to. I don't see it as much as I used to with everybody beating up Zed, but um,
So unless you're in class 1, which I don't have
well,
class 1 problems. So
I mean, but at the same time, right? Like the game is all about adapting and changing.
absolutely.
So okay, so these guys complain about class one, and these are mainly your bigger stables. So you have to take care of the little people, but you also do have to take care of the bigger people just as. I'm going to say just as much. I don't know if I necessarily feel that way, but I'm about to really give my opinion on this. So they're going to dislike me most likely. Um, Downclass your horse. I don't care
Yeah.
if I don't care if you're at 1,000 class points or not. Downclass your horse. If you want to race that horse for money, downclass it. Or sit there and do what Wagner does and enter 12 horses into a race. You have one or
Yeah.
two, or what? I mean, he don't enter 12. He enters what? 10 to 11 or whatever and gets top 3 mainly. But you know what? Is he happy about that? Probably not. But he's racing his horses and he's still making money. And if you guys dislike it that much, you have a horse that is at 1100 class points. It's going to take you a while to get there. But especially if you have a specialist, I don't want to call anyone out specifically. But if you have a specialist, run it down and it's bad and free right now. Pay somebody you trust to do it.
Yeah.
If you have a class 1 horse, you're making money with it. So pay somebody you trust to do it. Bring your horses down a class. Do something different. Because you know what? You guys were the one eating when Flames came out. You guys were the one where when everything was different, you guys were doing fine. And now Zed is catering to smaller stables that have class 1 horses that can run them in freeze to possibly qualify for a tournament. And the bigger stables are still winning these tournaments. Okay, so you can't grind out your $5, $10, $15, $20 races 7-8 times a day to make additional ETH, but every week you're walking away with what, at least 0.1, 0.2. I can't feel bad for a stable complaining about paid races. Run it down. Princess of Power gets ran down. Wavelength gets ran down. And if Wavelength just ran its preferred distance, Wavelength would be a class 1 horse. Princess of Power has been a class 1 horse for a long time, and they took the time to run that horse down. Beautiful Fire has been ran down. These horses have been ran down. Do what they're doing. Change the way you play the game. Adapt and change. There is no bonus for playing. There is no bonus for being in class 1. There's no. Now, if they change it, I have no issue with that. Sure, because then that gives you something to work towards. I've seen, where they're like, hey, bring back the rake, put the extra rake towards class 1 to give people an incentive to get up there to run their horses. That's probably not going to give anybody an incentive to get up there to run their horses because they know what they're going up against. But maybe a few people. But stop complaining about it. The game's changed. They're trying to make the game better. They're about to implement an ELO system. Let's see how this goes. Get over it. You guys are making money for a long time.
I think too, it's hard because I think a lot of people forget, just like it's important to keep our individual stables cash flow positive, so that way we can continue to play without having to inject more money. The Zed ecosystem's the same way. Like Zed can't pay us more than they take in from races forever without injecting more money, or there needs to be something to give. So like, yeah, juicing class 1 pots would be cool, but where does that money come from? And they can't just keep on bringing in $20 million investments to put money in our pockets, because eventually that runs out too.
So the way some people are talking is like, so because everything's rake free right now, so bring back rakes for like class, I guess 2 through 5. Take that rake and put it in there, because Zed has to make a killing from breeding. They're getting on the breeding conversation of that. That's something that, to where if I want to breed in-house in my own stable, I don't feel like I should have to pay for that.
Yeah, I can see the sentiment.
But I guess that also, I mean, you still have to enter it into the stud barn, so it's not like they won't make some money, right? Because there are snipers out there. There are people that somehow are knowing a horse is in the stud barn before it's in the stud barn, if you know how to read a contract, which I don't.
I'm pretty sure that's part of some of the tools that are available, where you get the notifications when a horse enters a contract.
So it's not like you won't get 3 breeds from something, and it's not like everybody's going to do that all the time. But if I want to breed this rounds on me with Templar, I don't feel like I should have to pay, even if it's $100, whatever the minimum is, to do that, because I technically own both those horses, right? But
yeah, it's definitely one of those things that we'll see if it eventually goes away, or if it's a system that's designed for when we switch to a token, since there seems to be ways to earn the token that's just kind of participation based. So,
which I think that's great. I mean, I own what, 4 Genesis. So of course, I don't own as many as some other stables, but I feel like 4 is not a bad number either.
Well, I think it's cool too that now that, like, based on the roadmap, is not just Genesis horses that will be getting a token. It's all
Yes.
horses. So if somebody decided to play the racing game and couldn't find a Genesis runner, or if somebody started off with, legendaries and was building out an exclusive stable, they're still going to be rewarded for being an active community member in
Yes,
their own way.
Yes, I don't believe that. I don't know who some of these stables are, so I can't speak to whether or not if they play the game and this is just a different stable. But I'm just gonna say the stable name, not meant in a rude way or anything like that, but like a coffee liver stable. If you ever go into the stud barn, you see that they have a ton of horses in there, and none of them
450 finnies, I do believe.
Right. So you're looking at a stable like that, to where all they do is just constantly put their horses in the stud barn. So clearly they're logging on and doing something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't feel like that should get more than somebody that has. I don't feel like they automatically deserve more token than somebody that has maybe put, let's just say, 3,000 hours or something ridiculous into the game, but they don't own a single Genesis.
Yeah, thousands of races and
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting balancing act. I'm happy I'm not the one at Zed who has to make the decisions to keep the game going.
I'm happy about that too. I'm glad that's not a decision I have to make either.
Don't own the boat. Have the friend that owns the boat, so that way you can have the fun.
Yes. It's funny you just use that. I am that friend that owns the boat now.
So, are you? I just sold my boat about 2 years ago.
It's the happiest day of your life, right? The two happiest days of a boat owner's life: the day they buy it and the day they sell it.
Yep, and then you watch it drive away and like, dang it, now I want to use it. So what do you have a timeline on how long it should take to get your Zabo, or are you just kind of slow grinding and you see what happens to the market? Because right now the market's soft on them. I'm surprised.
So I don't look, because if I look and I like the price, that means more fiat's coming out.
That's fair.
So we actually are gonna look right now. Yeah, so I can tell you right now, if ETH hits $2,000, I'll have one in less than a week.
Nice.
With the way that the market is right now, even if it's the worst one out there.
Yeah.
100% I will. It'll just happen, because I can't pass up. Okay, maybe not. Actually, yeah, probably still. If ETH drops below 2, right now the floor for a Z3 Genesis is sitting at 2.29.
Yeah, that's so soft.
So, which, let's compare that really quick. Where was that back on the 13th? Z3 floor was at 2.34. So actually it's up 0.05.
It's probably due to the difference in ETH price, I would assume.
Yeah, probably. But that's not. Now, it's actually, I'll be completely honest with you, it's extremely tempting to just say no to a Z3 and go straight to a Z4 for 1 ETH less. That's tempting at this time, this day, this hour.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I've kind of been, because I just recently purchased my first Finny Genesis. And,
congratulations.
Thank you. I was very happy with it. That was 6 hours before the announcement of the roadmap. So I feel like I got it for quite a steal. And it's one of those things where I think Z number is going to matter a lot at scale. So, spending the extra to get the 3 versus the 4, spending the extra to get a Z6 versus a 7. I think it plays out over time. It's just how much are you willing to risk today and hurt your cash flow today.
So one thing actually interesting about this, when I was looking, is the prices for. Yeah. So I'm just gonna run through this with you really quickly with Z6 and Z7s, because this is why I said I feel like just Finnies in general. I'm just gonna run through what they were back on the 13th.
Yeah.
A 5 UU Colt was at 1.859. A Z6 was at 1.1, and a Z7 UU Colt was at 1.15. So a Z7 UU Colt was more than a Z6.
Yeah.
Z5 was 2.79 for a UU Philly, 2, and then 175. So on just unraced stallion, so it's been bred, 137, 12, 07, 0.75 for a Z7. 1.5 for a mare, 1.2, and 1.2. So there was no price difference there from a 6 to a 7.
It's crazy.
So floor stallion, 0.967, 0.6, and then 0.49. Floor mare, 1, 0.062, 0.05. So there is such a minimal difference, at least then, between a 6 and a 7. And I agree with you. I think the Z number is going to matter.
Especially if you look
So
at
much.
like, right now, a colt or a stallion can breed 36 times a year. And if you're folding the same one back in several times, across 7 or 8 different mares across your stable, like that ends up being a lot.
Yes.
Like a lot. That's why I've been focusing a lot on Z5 Nakamoto fillies exclusives, because it's only a Z5 and the price that you can get them at is so good, especially versus what it costs to breed with a Nakamoto right now. Like it just, the bang for the buck is, it's only like 0.2 or 0.02 more. So, roughly $60 more than buying a legendary butte that's Nakamoto Buterin. So like I'll gladly take a Z5 Nakamoto exclusive over 2 Nakamoto legendary buttes.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I also for my Genesis, as I'm trying to work through this Genesis goals that I have,
Yeah.
I am focusing a lot more on stallions.
Yeah. I transitioned to stallions when I started my stud program. Before that, I was very mare focused. But now that I'm doing my stud program, I'm more stallion focused.
I think Genesis stallions are the way to go, especially once you get to these higher Z numbers. Like I'm still up in the air on whether or not if I actually want to keep this Z6. I have it
Yeah,
in,
it's
I have it in the barn right now. Like it's in the barn, price with a premium. So I wasn't tempted to race it during the maiden.
yeah.
But I just
I'm actually, well, it's funny because like the floor on Genesis Buttes went up, but a lot of people didn't go in and change their prices on their UUs. So like there's also that the unappreciation for UU Buterins right now, which obviously they might not be the best, but as far as like a collector's item to put on the shelf and release at a later date when people really, when the game scales, like
that's
it's insane.
100% true. That if I'm gonna race something, I'm just gonna go buy a UU Butte and I'm gonna race it and see what happens.
Yeah, especially because the good ones are just so good.
They
The
are.
donkeys are donkeys, but it's
The
better to
good
have a
ones are
donkey
good.
Buterin than a donkey Finney or Zaba, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Yeah. So I'm looking at the Z6 floor real quick just to see. See, I wouldn't want to sell it floor right now, but I mean, you can go grab a. Oh, well, mine's UU. So let me look at that because I just looked at unraced. I mean, the floor for UU Z6 minis has not changed in this whole month. It's been the same horse. They've been listed for 2 months. It's of course I can. It's at 1.1.
Yeah. It's weird how the market moves at the top and the bottom, and the middle just kind of is underappreciated at all times.
And to give you an idea too, to tell you how quick that they've sold, because I just obviously everybody knows about Haku sold.
Yep.
You have 2 that were listed 3 days ago, and it was sold for both were sold for 0.705. So I'm gonna assume that was an offer that was made on them. And the one said 13 seconds, the other one says in 3 minutes. So,
Yeah.
and actually they were both Z5s, so they had to be offers.
The thing that's insane to me is the price. So like, I love BG and all the data he gives out, but whatever he says manipulates the market so hard. So like the Z6 Finney legendary floor, before the Maiden was the exact same raced and unraced as Z2 Nakamoto's for the males.
Really?
which is just mind blowing to me that it would cost the same for a Z6 legendary Finny as it does a Z2 Nakamoto.
So I know that Z4 legendary Zabos, their floor is extremely high.
Yeah.
And there's never a lot on the market either. And that
Yeah,
to me
it
is
was
probably one of the best breeds there is.
Yeah, I think before the Maiden, I haven't checked since the Maiden, it was 0.6 for an unraced Z6 legendary Finny.
That's
And it's just like I would definitely buy the Z2, I believe, over the Z6.
100%. There's no question.
Like, yeah.
Are Z6 proven to be better racers?
I don't know. That I don't really know. I know there was the idea being tossed around quite a bit about the Z6s potentially having higher base ability than a Z6 Genesis that was an average Genesis. So potentially, better breeder at that point. Which we kind of see a lot too, like when you mix the high end Nakamoto with the higher end of any of the bloodlines, right? Like you said with the Z4 Zabos versus a Z5 Legendary. There just seems to be a cheaper way to kind of get in, but it just still blows my mind that the price was that much higher. Like you're almost paying twice as much as a Genesis Z7 at that point.
So I am looking through here because I just feel like I feel like you're probably going to want to wrap up here, and it's just something that I've been wanting to do, and I did think about waiting for this until we did it. There is in Sprints A for the Maiden.
Yeah.
There is 9 Genesis currently that have been raced. There is one Z1, one Z2.
I am not cracking open a Z1 for a Maiden tournament. That is not enough money.
It was LTKYH. Those guys that know your horse.
I don't care.
Those guys that know your horse. I don't know if you've ever seen their shirt. It says "Buy unraced, race, repeat" or something like that.
Yeah, I still couldn't do it, man. If I'm being unraced Z1, it is never being raced until it pays for me to buy an island.
Looks like here in mid distance there is, in the first race alone, in mid distance there is 1, 2, 3 Z1s and 2 Z2s.
Never happening.
Looks like there is 10 total in the mid distance funnel in A, and then in marathons, a Z3 is in the first race. No Genesis knocks in the marathon funnel for A. So I mean, I can go through B if you want while I got it up, but
yeah, if you want. And while you're looking it up, how do you feel about them not releasing the rest of the Genesis horses?
I hate it.
I would have played the game completely different.
I agree 100%.
There would not be a single horse in my stable that wasn't a Genesis horse at this point if I would have known that I didn't have another drop coming.
Oh, 100%. Especially when the market was down, I would have
you could buy them for like 0.08 all day.
Yeah, I would not have been breeding.
Yeah.
So 2 Genesis in both are Buttes in marathon B funnel. In mid distance B, looks like there is 3. One is a Z2 Nakamoto. And then the other 2 are a Z9 and a Z10 Butte. And then there is 1 Z3 Zabo in the sprint funnel. So most of your Genesis are in your A funnel, which probably is expected.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to touch on that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about?
No, I mean, we've kind of covered everything. I really enjoyed this. If you ever want me to come back on and we can just talk about the game or anything like that, I'd be
absolutely
more than happy to come on and talk about that.
Put on our tin hats and geek out over things that everybody's going to say isn't true, but it's still fun to pretend like it is.
Absolutely, I'll do that any time of the day. Just everybody plays the game differently. I just hope if you're playing this game, you're having fun. If this is your first time discovering anything about Zed Run, you can reach out to me on Twitter. You can reach out to Mike on Twitter. I'm just going to throw that out there for him too.
No, I'm always down to talk Zed.
Have any questions, do it. It's fun. It's a good release. You can kind of get lost in this, and it doesn't have to be expensive for you to get into. We're talking about horses at 2 ETH and stuff like that. That's just because the level that we are at in this game, we enjoy it, and it's something that we want to keep doing. So
No, I did want to ask you about reckless whales. I see you minted some reckless whales back in the day. So did I.
So not only did I mint them, I actually joined the team at one point, and
Oh, really?
I hate fudding projects, but
I don't think you can FUD it any more than it has been.
Kurt is awful. He's young. He has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, so I also minted. My wife is, well, we're both pretty obsessed with ocean conservation and all that stuff too. So the fact that they were talking about that right off rip, I was like, all right, well, I'll just mint a bunch because it's like donating to charity. So like we already
They did.
do that. So
they did do the dirt.
Yeah, no, they did. But yeah, so I minted 5. I pulled a pocket ace extra large orca that I had like a 1.1 offer on right after the mint. And I'm like, oh, no way. This is one of the rarest of the rarest. I'm going to hold this. Yeah.
We've all kind of been there with our
And I also I noticed some sneaky cheetahs in your wallet as well. I also have one of those.
So that one doesn't really bother me as much. I
love Amanda.
Yeah, Steve and Amanda. Yeah. I think they're both great people. And I support the project that she did. I have nothing bad to say about sneaky cheetahs.
No, I don't either. No. It was just interesting that we had similar purchases.
Did you discover? Were you in Top Shot?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't.
I had a few friends that were showing me Top Shot before I got into Zed Run and NFTs, but just something about it just didn't register with me. I think it was because I was already selling all my collectibles. Like I just sold the last of my Magic collection. I sold the last of all my cards that I own, my Pokemon, my baseball, everything. I just got done selling like 14,000 vinyl records, my Pez collection, like anything I've been collecting over the years, I've been slowly getting rid of. And then everyone's like, oh, Top Shot. I'm like, no, I do not want another collectible. I don't care if I can store it on my computer.
Yeah, I still have.
And then I saw Zed Run. And I was like, oh shit, let me have it.
Yeah, but this is a little bit different. It's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say probably, I don't even know. I'd have to actually look at my OpenSea to see if I'd say the best mint I ever did was RSOP was probably my best mint.
Yeah, that one took me by surprise. My best mint was Cool Cats, but I sold after having it for 5 days. So
yikes!
I'm happy. I'm happy I did because you don't know what you don't know.
And my biggest miss is by far Bored Ape, because I was in Steve's Discord and watching them all talk about it, and I was one of the dummies that didn't mint.
I almost bought one when Poseidon put out his video, and they were at 0.6 because I had the 0.6 in my wallet waiting for the Zed drop. That never happened, for me at least. And I was like, oh, well, Poseidon's saying this is a good idea. He's pretty big in his Zed Run, so he's probably done his research, so I should probably buy one. I'm like, no, I really want to be able to buy a good horse in the next drop that might come, so I passed. And then we saw how that played out. But I would end up selling early again, just like I did with Cool Cats. Like Cool Cats hit 1/8 floor, and I'm like, oh my god. Like I just got into crypto, and I just got into NFTs, and I spent $170 and I can make $4,000. Let's do it.
Yeah, I wish I would have minted Cool Cats. I didn't even attempt to mint that. Bored Ape was the one that I knew about and didn't do.
Yeah.
Biggest miss in my life.
When do you think you would have sold, though, if you would have minted?
Depend.
Like
so if I would have minted, I would have minted at least 3.
Okay.
I would have sold one early, held 2. When the floor hit 10, I would have sold another. At the point the floor is at now, I don't know if I would have a third ape, especially because of the mutant derivative.
Yeah.
I would have sold one to get back my initial for sure.
And see, my first run at crypto was Dogecoin on Robinhood back in February. I started playing with that because my friend wouldn't leave me alone. And then I ended up selling everything at like 2 hours before the Saturday Night Live at like 64 cents, I believe, is when I sold out. So I did pretty good with that. And then I found out that Robinhood Crypto isn't really owning the entire point of cryptocurrency. So then I transitioned and then found NFTs. And yeah. So I would have sold early again. I know I would have, just like I did with Cool Cats.
Yeah, I didn't mess around with Doge. I just don't trust all the Doge, the Shiba, but that can be a different conversation if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. It was a $50 investment just to play with it.
I am still
ended
holding
up pretty good.
I am still holding a cool dog. I am still
I
holding
noticed.
one cool dog. I was very Stanley Studios talked me into that. I bought two. I sold one at a loss, and the other one I'm still holding. But I sold it at a loss because I needed more ETH for breeding. So
that's always the hustle, isn't it? What can I sell to breed more horses this month?
the other one I really like is G-Balls. The floor is down on those, but I'm not gonna. I mean, I guess you can say I'm showing this, but I like the artist. I like what he stands for. He's very open with his community too about everything that he does, and it's just I don't think that's one I'll sell either. It's another one Stanley put me on.
I think I've sold everything that I'm willing to. Everything else kind of belongs to my whole stable brand, so I'm not in any hurry of like. It would have to be buyer island type of money in order for me to sell. Is how I put it.
Yeah,
and even then, we'll see.
I get that, man, for sure.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
We're definitely gonna have another one of these.
Absolutely, 100%. Just let me know. Just let me know when, and I'll make sure I'm free.
All right, cool, man. Well, I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, thank you. See ya.